Um, my name is Nevaeh, this is Omar, and today we're presenting our project titled Multimodality of Parents with Their Children in Multilingual Households. So basically, a lot of the current research on early development centers on primarily speech, but as you may know from your own experiences with your parents and caregivers, speech is not the only thing that goes into communication. There's also gestures, vocal sounds, expressions, etc. So for our project, we wanted to come up with a code book that could capture these multimodal communication patterns. And we decided to focus on multilingual families in particular, since they also rely on a lot of different communication methods to interact. So for this project, we focused on recorded interactions between parents and child from the Baby Books 2 study. And we looked at parents that were low income, first time parents with their children 9 to 30 months old. And through repeated observations and some collaborative work, we were able to identify 5 categories of multimodal communication, which are sounds, vocal sounds, gestures, gaze and facial expressions, embodied action, and use of objects. And I'm going to pass it off to Omar to talk about our findings.
All right, perfect. So in terms of our findings, we did notice that there was some sort of a connection between verbal and nonverbal communication, especially when it came down to multilingual families. Like Nevaeh mentioned, it is very important when it comes down to how parents and infants interact during these time periods. So we did notice that there was a dynamic connection between all of these different factors. And when it came down to all the focus itself, we noticed that there was a trend between how all of these different connections and the differences between mom and dad interact with one another. So essentially, when it came down to the research overall, we did tend to notice that we did use our inductive and deductive approaches, and overall just being able to incorporate these multiple modalities reflects how communication naturally occurs throughout this process. And just overall, we did establish some limitations due to the fact that our population were only low income and multilingual families. Obviously, this may limit the general ability. And then overall, due to the fact that these observations were structured where the parents would get interviewed, they would get a camera right up to their face, it may seem that these interactions were kind of structured where they really didn't tend to show their full selves because obviously they were getting recorded and whatnot. So these were some of our limitations, but overall we did notice that these connections between verbal and nonverbal communication just helps how multilingual families connect one another, because obviously when it comes down to research that is currently published, we have noticed that there is a trend where most of the research is vocal communication. However, there really is a limitation on how these nonverbal communications do approach. So overall, by collaborating with this coding scheme, our aim was to expand how research is currently viewed, where they're able to not only focus on monolingual families, they can actually focus on multilingual families, and overall just the connection as to how these parents foster communication styles with the children. And with that being said, thank you so much, everyone.